So guys, we've made videos on what it is that you're going to learn in ACCA. We've made a video on what it is that you will learn in CMA. And now we're going to do a video, specifically this video, on what it is that you will learn in CFA. And specifically, we're looking at level 1 because that is where you start. And the reason we are doing these videos is because a lot of students base their decision on what will be the salary packages or what will be the job opportunities. But in fact, let me tell you, there are job opportunities for every course out there. There is a good remuneration that you can get after every course. So you should base your profession, your career around what it is that you enjoy, and you should pick things that you are intrigued by and that you want to learn. So we'll cover what it is that you will learn in CFA level 1 today. So guys, the first thing you'll need to know is that there are 10 subjects in CFA level 1. Each subject has its weightage, which means that percentage of questions in the exam will come from that particular subject. Now, this is readily available on the internet, but we will put it on the screen for you for your reference when I talk about each subject. Let's start with the very first subject. And again, this is not necessarily the order in which you study. The order can hugely differ depending on where you're at in your career. So we're not going to go over the order, but what we'll mainly go over is the 10 subjects and what it is that they entail. The very first subject that I want to start with is financial statement analysis. Now, financial statement analysis is essentially, from a CFA perspective, all about being able to create financial statements. So your income statement, your balance sheet, your cash flow statements, and then about interpreting the financial statements that you've made. It is well and good to be able to do one or the other, but it is pointless if you're not able to create one or read one. So this is essentially what you learn in financial statement analysis. Okay, let's talk about derivatives next. So when I say derivatives, a lot of students are a little scared right from the get-go. But when I talk about derivatives in CFA, I'm not talking about mathematics. I'm not talking about integration, calculus, and all of these subjects that you might not necessarily like or be comfortable with. Here, I'm talking about financial instruments. So essentially in derivatives, you learn about hedging. There are different financial instruments available out there like futures, options, swaps. You have these different options available with which you can sort of hedge your risk, and that is precisely what you learn in derivatives. It is also a lot to do with financial markets. The next topic that we'll talk about is corporate issuers. Corporate issuers is very straightforward, so I'll keep it very straightforward for all of you. It deals with 3 things. The first thing that you're going to learn in corporate issuers is how to get or procure money. So if you have a business, obviously you will need capital for your business. So the first part is how do you source that capital? The second part is how do you manage that capital? It's well and good to have the money in place, but you should know how to use or utilize or deploy that money. So that's the second part. And the third part is how do you grow money? There's a very famous quote that goes, make your money work for you. And that is precisely what this topic deals with. The next subject that we'll talk about is fixed income. Now, fixed income essentially deals with things like debt securities, bonds, different asset classes of this nature. So that is what this subject will cover. It will cover the valuation of these asset classes. How do you use these asset classes? When is it a good time to get into these sorts of asset classes? And this is mainly what fixed income will deal with. Next topic we can talk about is equity investments. Now, in equity, you have things like common stock, or in India, as we call them, equity shares. You have preferred stock or preferred shares, and you have these different asset classes where essentially you're claiming ownership by owning these shares or stocks, as they call them in the US. Now, in equity, you learn the science of valuation. How do you value equity and preferred stocks and different asset classes in this range? You learn how to manage them. So you learn different terms like treasury stock, which is what they call it in the US, which in India is essentially buyback. And you learn different strategies of this sort. Additional paid-in capital is another thing that you learn. Don't be worried about these terms. They are fairly straightforward, but this is essentially what you learn in equity investments. The next is alternative investments. Now, anything that doesn't fall under your traditional fixed income or equity goes under alternative investments. You have things like real estate and similar asset classes that fall under this category. So as an investment manager, which is the aim after US CFA, is essentially you need to know all of these different asset classes and how to manage them. So now that I've talked about all of these subjects, the next subject logically is portfolio management and wealth planning. The aim after the US CFA course is to get into portfolio management. Portfolio management is essentially getting these different stocks or securities in one place, and that is what becomes your portfolio. And how do you grow your portfolio? There are different theories attached with portfolio management. There is an aggressive theory, there is a passive theory. So all of these things you learn in the portfolio management subject. The next subject is quantitative methods. This essentially deals with statistics, probability, and these sorts of mathematical terms. Now, it's not very heavy on that, but yes, you do need to understand basic mathematics and you need to understand basic statistics more importantly. So this is what quants will deal with. Economics is all about demand and supply, as you know, and the science behind all of this. So that is essentially what you pick up in economics. The final subject is ethics. Now, often students take ethics a little lightly, but one thing that is extremely important for you to know is sometimes ethics is the difference between a candidate passing or failing their exam. So do take this subject seriously. As a finance professional, you will be expected to act with a lot of integrity, a lot of ethics, and there are certain standards prescribed by the institute, and that is precisely what you learn here. So if you find all of this interesting, right, essentially specialize in finance, if you find this interesting, then CFA is probably the right course for you. If you're still a little confused, or if you have any more questions, or if you're completely convinced, give us a call on the number that you see on your screen, and we're more than happy to provide one-to-one counseling. I hope this video has been helpful for all of you.